What's up, everybody? It's Josh from WA Production, back again with a live stream feedback session. But in addition to that, we have our contest winner announcement today of our remix contest with the song you just heard from Myri and Manene, Back to Front, Front to Back, whatever you want to call it. Front to Back, I believe, is the official title, although for some reason it says Back to Front on this SoundCloud post, so I don't know. Maybe they couldn't decide. Anyway, so yeah, I'm excited to go through the winning submissions with you guys today. I won't play them throughout their entirety, but I'll play some snippets from each of them, and then I will jump into giving you guys feedback on the tracks you've submitted. Hopefully you're already aware of this, but you can submit tracks on our Discord via the link above my head, up there somewhere. I can't reach that far, otherwise it goes out of the camera, but that way, and also in the description. So you can submit there. I will review as many of the tracks as I can. Please only submit SoundCloud links. Please only submit one link, one song per session. So only one song today that you can submit. And I will try to get through as many of them as I can. I think maybe my voice is a little low. Let me try and turn that up a little bit. But anyway, so I'll get through as many of them as I can, and we'll have some fun today. So let's get going. Just a reminder, when I do go through those submissions, I do go out of order sometimes, just to kind of make it fair for everybody. So if I skip yours, it's very likely I'll come back, so don't worry too much. But you can always yell at me in the YouTube comments, which I will try to pay attention to. All right, guys. So let's start with our contest winner. Actually, we should go. Yeah, let's start with the winner. I was gonna say maybe we should go in reverse order, but nah, let's just start with the winner. So all these winners and submissions and stuff, every submission was listened to by Myri and Manene and our team, and selected by the artists themselves. So the winner is Michael Raywin with his remix, which I'll play for you in a little bit of it right now.
And now switch it up.
All right. So, yeah, everybody really liked that one. Obviously, it's mostly drum and bass, but then it does a halftime drop into like dubstep at the end. It does kind of like a double time drop in the middle to make it kind of almost hard style. So it really does a lot, but it actually all kind of fits together. And what's really cool is that, yes, it absolutely samples the original, but it takes it a whole new direction, which, you know, you don't always have to do that completely with a remix, but it is nice in a remix contest to get a submission that, of course, still fits the original, but is very original in itself. It doesn't just sound like, you know, they took all the sounds and kind of rearranged them. It really is unique, and the sound design is just really top notch, and so that's why the artist picked that one as the main winner. Next, I will jump over to the community winner. So just a reminder, the winner received these prizes on the left here. They get a 1-hour call with the artists themselves, $300 cash, $300 voucher. They get a license for all plugins edition for FL Studio, and then they get a bunch of plugins and sample packs and stuff from us as well. So I'll jump over to the community winner, who wins a copy of Instagore 2. That was the one with the most votes. They received 429 votes. Wow, yeah, kind of outdoing most of the competition there, so they must have a lot of friends. But let's have a quick listen to that one as well from Xarox. Front to the back. Everybody from the front to the back. Everybody from the front to the back. Everybody from the front to the back now. All right, so you guys get the idea. We like that one too. It didn't end up winning any of our main prizes, but it got the most votes, so it got the community winner. I think it's got a really cool concept in terms of that kind of hard house, hard dance sound with the kind of ravey main synth there. I thought it got a little repetitive. I think it could have been a little bit more interesting throughout the song, but overall, definitely a solid entry. So congrats to them for winning Instachord 2 with their submission. And then we don't, here's a little hint, we don't always mention this in the competition, but we usually do end up giving out like second and third place prizes just because it's usually pretty hard to pick just one. There's always great submissions, several of them. So I'll play a couple snippets from other ones we picked as well. So we did have a second and kind of 2 third place prizes that that the artists really liked as well. So first one is Slug here. So yeah, another cool D&B one. It seemed like a decent amount of people liked kind of switching it into the drum and bass sound for their remix. So that was a cool one with some cool sound design. We thought they did a good job, so we're also sending them a few prizes as well. The next one that got third place as well is the Dennis Wise remix.
Everybody from the front to the back, Let me see your hands and everybody from the front to the back. Everybody from the front to the back now. Everybody from the front to the back. Let me see your hands in the air. Everybody from the front to the back now.
And yeah, so that one's a good one too. It just happens to be drum and bass. We're not partial to any one genre. And like I said, it was actually primarily the original artists who picked the winners, and we obviously consulted with them as well. But this was mostly their picking, so we are not hard. I mean, we like drum and bass, of course, but that is not something for future contests to keep in mind, and always put out drum and bass remixes. Although I understand the thought. I think this one's not drum and bass. So this is the last one. They also got like kind of a third place prize, and from Criminal Noise. Let's just have a quick listen.
Everybody from the front to the back. Let me see your hands in the air. Everybody from the front to the back. Everybody from the front to the back.
Sonata drum and bass one. That we liked that one as well. That was pretty cool, more electro style one, I would say. So yeah, all right, we're done going through the contest entries. Thanks guys for listening. I'll now do some live stream feedback for you, but thanks to everyone who entered. There were a lot of awesome submissions. You know, we can't pick all of them. We did our best to pick the very best ones, and hope you guys, even if you didn't win a prize, that you improved, you got better, you got to kind of make your own take on that track and see, how professional stems look and all of that. And yeah, hopefully you'll do even better the next time. So thanks a lot again for your support on the contest, and yeah, happy to have all you guys here. So all right, now jumping into your submissions. Like I said earlier, as a reminder, I do kind of tend to jump around. I don't necessarily go straight in the order of when they were sent in, so don't worry if I seem to skip you. But let's start with Take Me Home from Bad Options.
I see you right, just like a hunter, I wait in disguise. The way you look and give me butterflies every single time, but I like it. Hold me close and tell me what I like to hear. Lights down low, don't lose the feeling, keep it near. Take me home and fulfill all your fantasies. Oh, come rescue me. I'm on the run, a refugee. Oh, come set me free. Tonight I need your amnesty.
Okay, that's a really great submission. I love that. It's really good. I just, it's really well produced. The sound design is nice. The mix is actually quite good, which, is often the hardest part. The main thing that jumps out at me that is kind of just a piece of detail work that I think would make it a better track is your track is very nice and bouncy, but it loses a bit of its bounciness because of one thing you didn't do. And basically you've got this, like, I can't tell if it's like an arpeggio, but you've got like some like muted plucks going on in the background, but your main rhythm in the drop is like bump 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 bump, and it's really nice and bouncy. That like main synth and the kick and they like all kind of line up to like really have some hard hits there. But in between those, where like you kind of have a pause in your main instruments, you still have the trailing kind of paddy arpeggio plucks in the background. And for me, I wish those would also cut off when the main instruments cut off, so that it's silent there, so that, it really, that going from the loudest part to the quiet to silence will make your track even that more bouncy and groovy. And so like if I go back and play it, and if you guys listen carefully, you'll hear what I'm saying if you're on good headphones or speakers. Like right there's a clear one. Like you hear it goes like ba 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 in the middle. Like if that was just silent, it would be more dramatic. There would be more bounciness and more groove. And so I would, I don't know what your process is. A lot of people like to bounce all their stems to audio and then do their mixing and mastering. Some people don't do it that way. One benefit of bouncing stems to audio like that is that it's a lot easier to just delete stuff than it is when like you're working with MIDI and stuff and you got to like silence the track or like, turn off the release or the reverb or the delay or whatever. Like when you bounce it to audio, you can just remove the audio. So like that's one method for doing that. You can just like go through those background layers of stuff and just like whenever the main synth stops, when you want it to go silent, just delete everything else that's happening there. Obviously put in some fades so that it doesn't like click or anything like that when you delete it, but just a suggestion there. And the other thing I thought, just a small thing, I think the vocal is nice, but I think you could maybe add some more reverb and make it a little wider or something so that it kind of feels like it's in the same space as your other elements. But really, it's a great song. I don't have much to say. I think you did a great job, so nice work. All right, next we've got Danix ID. Okay, thanks for sending. Really nice melodic content, really pretty chord progression and different elements. I think you did a good job of picking the right sounds to use. They all fit nicely together and do a good job. I think my main comments here would be about both the mix and about just the arrangement to keep the listener interested. So firstly, mix-wise, obviously this is a work in progress, so I don't expect it to be a great mix, but some of the glaring things would be like in the beginning here, it's really hard to hear the most important elements. Like it's kind of like the bass is like 90% of what you hear. And then those like main stabs and, synths and whatever are really hard to hear. So I would just make sure your levels are the way you want them. And then it's funny because the bass is super loud over here, but then it's really quiet throughout the rest of the track. You can even see, how the peaks up here are so much higher than even when you get into your drop, So like that's probably because your bass, which takes up the most space, whenever you have a bass, it's the most space filling element, so that's probably why. So the bass is a bit loud over here compared to the rest of the track. I thought it could actually use more bass, in the actual drop. And then really the only other comment, being a work in progress, is just when you have a long build up like this, there's kind of two things you got to do. Number one is you have to keep the listener interested throughout and like add in, and you do this somewhat, add in new elements, even tiny things, every 8 bars or so at least. And I would consider adding a few more rhythmic things. I know you add some drums at the very end, but like even like a little click or a little snap or something like that, just to kind of keep, when you have this very ambient, ethereal sounding portion of a song, after a little bit, the listener can kind of lose where they are in the track, and it's nice to have the occasional something to just tell them, okay, this is the downbeat, or like something like that. And so that would be helpful. You really, to keep a listener engaged for that long, waiting for a build, you gotta, build, and add a bunch of layers and stuff. And so I would go listen to like maybe an Above and Beyond track or something like that, and just kind of hear how they do that. And then lastly, really for the drop, the second part of that is, if you're going to have this big long buildup, the drop has to be worth it, right? And so I think the drop is very nice, but gets a little repetitive and boring. Like, you don't really change much after the first 4 bars, 8 bars of the drop, and then it repeats and repeats and repeats, and it feels like it's exactly the same. And so I got a little tired of it after like the first and a half times. So add new things, add new elements, really make that climax climactic, and you'll be good to go. But I look forward to hopefully you'll submit this once you've finished it. But nice work. It's a great track. Okay, next we'll listen to Show Me Your Heart by Zelkon.
I've been living in the dark. I just need to see your heart. I've been living in the dark. I just need to see your heart. Show me your heart.
Okay, very cool. Thanks for sending that in, Zelcon. So some classic hardstyle sounds. The vocal is great. I'm not sure if that's original or if that's from a sample pack or something, but it's really dope. Um, I would give a few recommendations. So, firstly, just I never know. This one doesn't say like work in progress or anything, so I can't tell if you feel like this is finished or not. But definitely mastering and mixing could use a little work. Not sure if you've gotten to that phase yet, but you can just tell visually too how much louder the drops are than the other parts. There's a huge gap. I mean, very rarely in a finished song will there ever be such a huge difference between the lowest and the loudest parts. What that caused me to have to do, if you see me leaning like this ever, it's because I'm like adjusting the volume on my interface, which is built into my desk over there. I had to keep turning it up and down because it was way too quiet during the breaks and way too loud during the drops. And so that's something you'll have to, fix. Firstly, do it just with volume and gain. I mean, you don't want your limiter to do all that work of like bringing something this low up to here. I mean, it'll just sound super, super compressed, which obviously you do kind of want that, but not that much. So that's one thing. The drops, I did feel like I know obviously in hardstyle that like bass kick is a very loud element, but I thought it could be a little quieter and leave a little bit more room for those really awesome synths that you have going, because the lead synths sound very like underneath and behind in the mix. So I would give those a little bit more space to kind of act a little bit more like a lead. I love this breakdown over here, really cool. I think that was done really well. And then there are parts where it's like kind of hard to hear the vocal. So you do want to make sure that the vocal is always able to be heard, both by adjusting the volume and by maybe doing some side chaining, stuff like that. But yeah, overall really good. I think that for me, the biggest thing here is the mix and the master. I didn't think that, I think the composition's good. I think the structure of the song is good. I don't think there's too much you have to do there. So nice work. Thanks for sending that in. Alrighty, next we have Bad Beard's remix, Update 11, of Vice Tone's White Lies, featuring Chloe and Helides, I think.
Calling my bluff like it's your own. I'm crawling on the floor beneath your throne. Take my hands and wash them clean again. And they say I breathe in the truth, exhale the lies. And they say and they say again. And they say tugging at your sleeve, but you hold still. I'm trying to break free against your will. Right back at the starting line again. And they say I breathe in the truth, exhale the lies. And they say and they say again. And they say
All right, thanks for sending that in. So musically, very nice. Mix wise, needs some work for sure. So, firstly, most of your drums are too quiet and your lead is too loud. So, for example, like if we're talking in this build, why can't I hear the snare, man? I mean, like that, the snare is what's building the beat, and that's the quietest thing in your mix. Like that should be almost the loudest thing in your mix, pretty much. And then your vocal gets lost, in parts because certain things are too loud. In the drop, your lead is like the only thing I can hear. Like in this kind of music, it's not the lead that should be the loudest, it's the kick. And so the kick is like drowned out. I can hardly hear it. I mean, you have the right elements all there. It's just that I can hardly hear any of them like that. You've got those toms or whatever they are, the kick, the snare, and those are all nice, but like they need to be, your drums should be compressed and front and forward because that is what drives the track. Your lead is super important, but if there's one thing that should never be outdone by your lead, it's your drums. And so the drums need to be at the top of the mix. Your lead is, too loud, should be side chained a bit more probably. And then, there's like no bass in this track at all. It's like there's nothing down there. I don't even know if you have a sub bass in it. Maybe you do. It's just super, super, super quiet. So, what I would do is go listen. It's people get weirded out by referencing your track, but there's a reason that like every mix engineer uses reference mixes. It is not cheating. Cheating is listening to another track during production and then stealing everything they do. But once you've done the production part, it's totally accepted and encouraged to listen to other songs in the genre that you think are really good and then hear, oh, you know what? My bass is not anywhere close to as loud as theirs, or my lead is way too loud, or like my kick is not compressed enough, or whatever. I mean, that's not cheating. That's just learning from people who do it better than you. So I definitely suggest throwing your song next to another progressive house type track that you really like and listening for the bass. You can even throw, a low pass filter on it and on both tracks so that you pretty much only hear the low end frequencies. Like let's say you do it at like 200 hertz and then just look visually at the spectrum, but also listen and just be like, wow, their track has way more bass than mine does. So that can kind of be an eye opener when you go listen to other songs critically and compare them to what your mix sounds like. So look, mixing is the hardest thing. I think there are many like incredible producers who are absolutely terrible at mixing. So it's not abnormal to struggle with that a bit, and it's not terrible. But what I will also say, the other thing I wanted to say was in the drop. I'm trying to think of where. Nah, it wasn't in the drop. It was a part where you had vocals, but like there's so many things going on at once. You have your lead, you have your vocal, you have like these plucks and arpeggios and things, and that's all fine. But in music production, you have to decide what your main element is going to be. The human ear, we can't focus on more than one thing at a time. So as much as you love your lead, when the vocal's in there, the lead needs to be quieter. The lead needs to duck down under the vocal because you cannot listen to both the lead and the vocal at the same time. When you've got the instrumental in the drop and there's no vocal, sure, the lead can be one of the loudest elements, but you got to make space. And when there's like three things that all sound like they're the same volume, then it's impossible to focus on any of them, and it just sounds like a mess. It sounds like a bunch of things happening at once. So anyway, those would be my suggestions. I know it's a lot, but hopefully you can take that and learn from it. I don't think I did this one yet. If I did, I'm sorry. I'll stop it. But Afterlife by Donate. Yeah, I didn't.
fleeting glimpse that we will never get back. Like tears in the rain, we are free from our physical form. We have somehow left our residual self in the subconscious of others.
All right, nice job. So musically very nice, and I think the arrangement is good. A song like this sometimes is 9 minutes long, and I think you did a nice job keeping it kind of, a normal length, and it still totally works, and it's great. I first thing I'll say is that tools like Endless Smile are great, and people love them for a reason, but they often get very overused to the point where anyone can recognize them in a song. I know 100% that you used it for for your build-ups, because I know what it sounds like. And I just suggest whenever it comes to using a tool like that, if you're going to use it, make it less obvious, layer, you do other things in your build-up as well as using Endless Smile. And because I can just tell the sound that's there. It sounds just like you threw Endless Smile on it, and that's your build-up. But do more. Like you throw in more risers and effects and some drums or something like that. Like, it shouldn't be the only thing that is creating that build for you. And then when you do have it here, Endless Smile doesn't do all the work for you. You know how it, once you get to whatever percentage you're at the top, it kind of just goes, and that's not that desirable. Like, what you want at the end is probably something closer to silence rather than this trailing off. Depending on the song, obviously it changes, but you don't necessarily want your build to just roll right into the drop. It kind of takes away some of the impact of the drop. You kind of want it to go to a point where it filters out, and then a little bit of silence or a little fill or something right before, rather than just rolling that and it keeps rising and rising and then the drop, and so try and work on that a bit, and then generally I think your track doesn't have enough highs. I think that that it's not very crisp. It all sounds very heavy in the low mids, that stuff, and then there's that one kind of piano element that has some highs, but even that not so much. So I think that's another instance, like I said with the last guy, maybe take a look at some other tracks in the genre and see kind of how I would be willing to bet that they have more high-end stuff going on than yours track does. And then lastly, in the mix, just in general, it does sound a bit muddy. To me, it sounds like a lot of elements have overlapping frequencies. A tendency for newer producers is, once they learn about EQing, then they over EQ. Then they're like, okay, I can't have anything overlap, and they make these crazy surgical cuts so that and then it sounds very sterile. So I'm not saying to do that. A little overlapping is okay, but when you have 3, 4, 5 elements that all kind of hit that low mid area, that's when it just starts to sound really muddy. So I would decide which elements are going to be in what part of the frequency spectrum, and then EQ it so that there isn't a bunch of unnecessary stuff happening between 150 to 400 hertz, somewhere around there. And so, because that's what kind of tends to create things that end up sounding muddy. So anyway, nice job though. Musically, it's really nice, and production wise, and just like everybody else, got to kind of improve the mix a bit, but nice work. All right, next we've got Averno, and it's Simon, I think. Time to Shine. Okay, thanks for sending that in. It's very nice. I feel like this is the theme of today. Is very musically nice, well done. Production is good, but mix and a couple other things need work. So, um, firstly, something I harp on a lot, and you can feel free to ignore me if you want, but I used to do this all the time as well, where I have so many different ideas that it's like, all right, I'll just do a three drop, song and make it longer and whatever. But really, your song would be a better song if it was 2.5 minutes long or 3 minutes. Like I wanted it to end over here. There wasn't anything particularly that you did over here that was like, ah, yeah, I'm really glad that they made it a 5 minute song. Like modern music on Spotify and whatever, like songs are getting shorter and shorter. People's attention spans are getting shorter. And I'm not saying there isn't place in the world for a 5 minute song, but like make sure it's necessary, And I just think in this song, you're not doing like it's not changing enough to warrant necessarily being this long. So I think you'll have a more successful and more interesting song if you were to try and cut it off by 3 minutes. That being said, it is a great track. I think that I know that all your lead sounds are too loud. Look at this difference in volume here. It's because of your lead. It's one thing. Obviously, the drop is usually going to be louder, especially when it hasn't been mastered yet. But every time your lead came in, I had to turn down the volume because it was just so much louder than everything else. I think, especially with newer producers, it's not always about volume. You got to also learn that. What I suggest is it's kind of like a puzzle piece and you want it to slot in. You don't want it to just sit on top of it, which is kind of what turning up the volume does. What you can do is you can sidechain other elements to your lead. Not just sidechain compression, but you can sidechain using something like Track Spacer or an EQ that does dynamic EQ, where you can have just the frequencies of your lead cut out of your other elements like your chords or whatever, so that rather than having to turn up the volume, you're just carving out a little bit of space in that frequency area so that your lead can just kind of slot in nicely. That's what you want in the music. You don't want it to sound like there's a bunch of different elements sitting on top of each other. You want to have them glued together so it's like, that fits into that space perfectly, and the other thing dips out a little bit so that it makes that space for it. So it's all one cohesive sound. And right now, the leads are, I think you just like, you wanted your leads to be front and center, which is good, but they're just way too loud. And so, something to consider there. Otherwise, I mean, it's a great track. I mean, just generally, I think, just the mixing. Another tip I would give for the piano is you might want to syncopate some of the velocity a little bit. With the real piano player, they're not hitting every note as hard as they can. And it's not the loudness I'm talking about. Your piano isn't too loud, but you can tell the velocity is very high. And so, realistically, in this kind of a thing, probably they're playing the chords kind of softer. They might accent a few notes when they're playing it. But, if you want a piano to sound more realistic and like a real piano player is playing it, I suggest lowering the velocity in general. And then, you can lower the velocity and then turn up the volume so that it doesn't sound as hard hit, but it's just as loud. And then you can also, make it so that not all the notes are playing at the exact same velocity, because no piano player on earth plays every note at the same. They hit every single one just as hard. So something to consider. But overall, nice track. I appreciate you sending it in. All right. Now we got Axe 391 and Empire. Hopefully I said that right. ID. Thanks for joining us again, guys. Pre-mastered.
It's almost like I missed you, but I can't. Never let myself forget all my love you misused, so I won't play your games. And all the times I feel something, there's a voice in the back of my head telling me to keep running, 'cause all that you are is regret. No, I don't need your love, I don't need your touch, I don't need anything now. You gave up on us, now your time is up. I don't need anything now. I don't need your love.
Okay. I dig that. It's really cool. Straight to the point, nice arrangement. It does a good job. I think it's a fun drop. Interesting. Not super. I don't know. I can't pin another song that I think sounds just like it. So I think it's a nice track. I think it's a very nice vocal. I think the vocal sounds a little dry. I mean, I might put some more reverb or something, some more effects on it. But as far as the drop, so my main comment here is just that main synth bass thing. So something most producers, especially in dance music, most successful ones will do if they have a sound like that. And I can't tell, maybe you already layered it, but the thing is that it doesn't have enough sub bass, and most cool synthy bass lead type sounds like that don't. And so rather than just dealing with it, what I suggest is you high pass that, take all the sub out of it, bring in another sub that actually is a sub, so it's beefy and it can lead the way in terms of driving that thumpiness into it, and then layer them together, your new sub along with that lead that's kind of wider. The other part of it is that it's very wide, which is cool, and that helps because it's basically the lead, but that's not good for a sub. A sub should be right down the middle, not wide at all. And so if you layer a standard sub playing the same exact notes down the center, mono, with that main lead synthy thing bass that is now kind of high passed and not clashing with your new sub, and then maybe you glue them together with some glue compression or some saturation or whatever, I think you'll have a much stronger drop section, because right now I'm not feeling the bass at all. I don't think there's much sub bass in the track, and so that would be my real main suggestion. I mean, I know this hasn't been mastered yet, so I don't have too much else to say, but it's pretty well mixed in general, other than that one element that just like, that's so important. I mean, that's like your lead, it's your main bass, it's your drop, it's everything for this track. It's your main melody, so that's the thing I think you need to clean up, but otherwise it's a cool track. I would add some sort of outro or something cool at the end to give it like an ending like that, maybe an effect on the vocal that tails off or something, but otherwise I think it's cool. I think you did a good job, so thanks for sending that in. All right, guys, I know you're all going to cry now, but it has been an hour, so I have to get out of here and go do my actual job. So thank you all for joining. And my actual job, I mean working for WA and responding to all your guys' support requests and all the other fun things I do for WA. So anyway, thank you for joining today. I really appreciate it. You guys submitted some awesome tracks today. Congrats to all the winners of the remix contest. We're going to be doing another one soon. I can't divulge too much about it right now, but it's going to be bigger and better than ever, so we're excited to do that. I think we'll announce that before the end of the year. So thanks again for joining, guys. I'm looking forward to doing it again soon, and I will announce it in Discord the next time we're doing one.